Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today on the show, first up, an Eagles insider shared a concerning report on the knee health of new cornerback for the Steelers, Darius Slay. Then we'll go into Asante Samuel Jr., probably the top free agent corner that's still available on the open market. Could the Pittsburgh Steelers still be in play to get him before the start of the season? And then we'll finish up today's show with Chase Claypool announcing he is making his return to the National Football League. Should the Steelers consider a reunion with their former wide receiver? I'll give you my answer to that at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into the content today, you guys know who this is. This is Trader Joey, our Baltimore Ravens host here at Chat Sports. And his channel, Ravens Rundown, just had their channel record, 92 new subscribers on their video from yesterday, and he has challenged us here at Steelers Talk yet again to a subscriber battle. We need to beat 92 new subscribers on today's show in order to win. So if you want to help us beat the Baltimore Ravens today, guys, and you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, make sure you do that for me right now. New viewers, we are counting on you guys. The real ones that are already subscribed can't help us out here. It's got to be new subscribers. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already for daily and free Steelers content every single day and help us beat the Ravens. All right, so we'll start our top story today. Adam Caplan, Philadelphia Eagles insider for the Eagles, Sirius XM host, does a bunch of different things, has contributed to ESPN, Fox Sports, etc. Very reputable guy, says that the Eagles cut Darius Slay this offseason because they are worried about Darius Slay's knee that he apparently had arthroscopic surgery on at the end of the 2023 season, and says it's a quote-unquote concern and that the Steelers know that it's a concern heading into 2025. Caplan says this: no offense to Darius Slay, he got cut by the Eagles, but he did look good late last season. As I'm told, one of his knees is a concern. He actually had arthroscopic surgery on it late in 2023. You have to wonder how well he can run. And the Eagles learned this with James Bradbury, who they cut, who signed a big contract 2 years ago. You never know when a guy's going to lose it, and they could lose it in an instant. The Steelers know this. So listen, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't been able to get the number 2 cornerback spot right. They've done a pretty poor job at acquiring veteran cornerback talent over the last 2 years. It's one of the things that I would actually criticize Steelers GM Omar Khan for doing in his time during his tenure as the Steelers GM, is he just hasn't done a good job adding free agent and trade veteran cornerback talent. Over the last 2 seasons, he brings in Patrick Peterson, who had a PFF grade of 58.9. Certainly not a great season for him in 2023, especially at outside corner. Completely lost his legs, had to move him pretty much to safety by the end of the year. And then in 2024, he trades for Donte Jackson in that Deontay Johnson deal. He had a PFF grade of less than 50. And then same thing goes for Cam Sutton, who they brought in free agency with a 49.5 PFF grade as well. So recent history here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, bringing in these veteran type of cornerbacks has not been fantastic. So this gets you a little bit worried here, especially with the recent history here in Pittsburgh. But hopefully Slay ends up being more like a Joe Hayden type of signing. Joe came in here when he was a little bit older, spent multiple seasons here in Pittsburgh as a very quality starting corner in the National Football League for this defense, and he was a big-time cornerstone in the secondary for this football team during his tenure here in the Steel City. So hopefully Darius Slay is more like Joe Hayden and not Patrick Peterson. Slay is coming in here. He's already announced it's going to be his final year in the National Football League. He's 30. He's going to be 35 years old here later this year and during the season. He's 190 pounds, brings good size to the table. He's got really great length. He used to play with Terrell Austin back in his Detroit days as well, and his Pro Football Focus grade last year was actually pretty decent, guys. He was a top 25 corner in the game for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. And, when you watch Slay on film, you still see that he is still a good corner. He hasn't lost his speed, at least not yet. That could certainly happen this year with him turning 35 years old and him having that surgery on his knee 2 years ago. That is certainly a concern, and it is a possibility Darius Slay just completely falls off a cliff for the Steelers defense this year. But at least in terms of how he played last year, he actually played quite well, and of course he helped that Eagles defense be arguably the best in football in 2024. And if he does stink and the Steelers are kind of forced to not play him, or if he ends up getting injured and he tears his ACL or something like that, I think the backup plans at outside corner for the Steelers are Jalen Ramsey. I think this is part of the reason why the Steelers brought in Ramsey. because if JPJ or Darius Slay, God forbid, go down with injuries, Ramsey is more than good enough to still play on the outside. And then Corey Trice Jr., somebody that they spent a 7th-round pick on a couple of years back, really athletically gifted individual. He showed some good stuff as a dime backer last year for the Steelers, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. If Slay starts to wane and Corey Trice Jr. is looking really good in practices, if he makes some splash plays as a dime backer this year, I could certainly see him getting an opportunity to be the CB2 of the future if Darius Slay doesn't have a great season. Or another possibility here for the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they could pursue Asante Samuel Jr., who is still a free agent. Now, Asante announced a couple of months ago that he was going to make his decision as to which team he was going to sign with in July. Well, now we're in July. In fact, it's July 9th, so I think that we are going to get a decision from Asante here pretty close. And he is 26 years old, still a very young player. He's a little bit undersized at 180 pounds for an outside corner, but he's pretty darn good in off coverage on the outside. Plus, he can play in the slot. Very versatile player. And, of course, he comes from an NFL pedigree, and he is coming back from a major neck injury, so it'll be interesting to see what his market looks like in terms of the money that he is going to get this year in NFL free agency before the start of the season. And Asante's dad, Asante Samuel Sr., longtime NFL player, in the secondary as well, has been quite busy lately. He taught, giving his take on the modern day NFL, and he commented on the Jalen Ramsey trade, and he was very complimentary of the Steelers' defense and this move that the Steelers were able to pull off. This is what Asante had to say. If the Steelers' defense was ranked 12th in total defense last year with almost no production from Minkah Fitzpatrick, I know and I guarantee Jalen Ramsey will make this defense a better defense. And I agree with Samuel Sr. here. I do think that Ramsey is going to be a more valuable player for this defense than Minkah Fitzpatrick was last year. And something that the Steelers could consider doing, especially if that family and, Asante himself wants to come play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is that he could play slot corner for this team, and you could just make Jalen Ramsey your full-time starting strong safety. It could look like this here. Your two outside corners are Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay. You have Asante Samuel Jr., who's a really good slot corner, by the way, in the nickel. You got Deshaun Elliott, who was your strong safety last year, but he can play free safety. He has the athleticism to do that, and then Jalen Ramsey can be your strong safety type. This would be a very fun secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they wanted to go in that direction. However, I would be surprised if the Steelers go in that direction and make Jalen Ramsey a safety full-time in this defense, okay, and going out and getting Asante Samuel. Part of the reason for that, guys, is Samuel's going to be pretty darn expensive, I think, all right? Like, teams, generally feel pretty darn good about him. We'll see, how the neck injury kind of affects his value, but right now Spotrek's projected value for him on the open market is $11.4 million per season. Now, because it's a later offseason addition, it's probably not going to get into that $10+ million range, but the Steelers right now have an estimated cap number of cap space here heading into the 2025 season of $18.6 million. That's not an exact figure because we don't exactly know the full details of the Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith deals as of right now, but over the cap right now projects the Steelers have about $18.6 million. But at the end of the day, and the reason why I think that the Steelers won't bring on Asante Samuel Jr., guys, is because I think they're excited about Jalen Ramsey playing in the nickel. We've been talking about this on the show since the trade went down. Ramsey from the nickel obviously is a great physical coverage player that can roam in the middle of the defense, read the eyes of the quarterback, be a ball hawk, but also be a big, long physical presence as a blitzing corner from the slot, kind of a souped-up version of the slot cornerback role that Mike Hilton played here in Pittsburgh during 2017 through 2020. So be the GM for me down there in the comment section. Would you sign Asante Samuel Jr. to a 1-year, $10 million deal? Would that be something that you would be interested in? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. Type S for sign or P for pass. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know if you would bring in Asante Samuel Jr. on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Now, before we get into the rest of today's show, guys, I want to give you guys a fantastic deal on an awesome Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt that you guys can wear during the colder months during the season this year. It's also 50% off from our friends at Fanatics today when you use our link, chatsports.com/PittHoodie. That link is down in the comments and description of today's show. And if you use that link and you make a purchase for a 50% off Steelers hoodie, then we get part of the proceeds here at Steelers Talk. So it helps out the channel. It also helps yourself out. You're getting an awesome Steelers hoodie for 50% off. All you have to do is go chatsports.com/PittHoodie and make a purchase today. I greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. Now, our final topic today, Chase Claypool is back in the rumor mill for the Pittsburgh Steelers here, as he has now announced that he intends to return to the National Football League this year after a toe injury that ended his season last year with the Buffalo Bills. This is what he said on his Instagram on the 4th of July. Signing with Buffalo last year was the best thing that I could have ever happened to me. I was the strongest, fastest, and most prepared I had ever been. I was playing my best football, working my way up from last 14th string to taking first-team reps by camp. Most of all, I was doing it with a group of guys I truly appreciated. I tore a ligament and a tendon in my second toe and have been rehabbing, working out, and recovering every day for the past year. I am back to being the strongest and fastest I've ever been and couldn't be more excited to step back out on the field and let my actions speak for themselves. So in terms of Claypool and whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers should bring him back, of course, he showed some decent production in the first 2 years of his career here in Pittsburgh, had over 800 yards in both of those seasons, had a really high average there of over 14 yards per catch, and had 9 touchdowns his rookie season back in 2020 with Big Ben Roethlisberger throwing him the football. But 2022, he split time here between Pittsburgh and Chicago, where he was dealt at the trade deadline famously for that second-round pick that ended up turning into Joey Porter Jr. And then 2023, the last time he's played in an NFL regular season game with the Miami Dolphins, he only had 8 catches for 77 yards. Okay, so just not a very productive player over the last 2 seasons that he has been in the National Football League. And, of course, last year he didn't play at all right? So for me, guys, I know that a lot of people want to add a wide receiver to this wide receiver room, guys, but there is no way I am bringing back Chase Claypool to be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 season. I think there's better options out there than Claypool on the free agency market and also on the trade market. Right now, I think some more realistic wide receiver trade and free agency targets. Gabe Davis and Amari Cooper are kind of the 2 bigger free agency names that could still be possibilities. Gabe Davis especially. Apparently, Davis is still very interested in signing with the Steelers. Keenan Allen, he did say that he wasn't too fond of the city of Pittsburgh and probably wouldn't want to play here. But, you know, if nobody else comes calling, would he accept a contract from the Steelers? That's certainly a possibility. And then Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks, the Steelers have made calls about their availability, but I would say right now, more than likely, the Green Bay Packers are going to hang on to both of those wide receivers heading into the 2025 season. So most likely, if they sign a receiver, it's probably going to be Gabe Davis would be my guess, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Davis. He drops a lot of footballs, not a great route runner, not a great contested catch guy for a big guy. But with that said, I'm just not sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers are even going to add another wide receiver. They're going to be playing in 12 and 13 personnel packages so often this year, guys, that I just don't think that they feel like they necessarily need to add another wide receiver. DK Metcalf's going to be your every down wide receiver 1. He's pretty much the size of a tight end, so he's going to be able to run block. He's going to be able to run after the catch, runs like a deer. He's phenomenal, man, with the A.J. Brown type of role that he's going to be playing in this Arthur Smith system. Calvin Austin III is a wide receiver, too. He's only going to be coming in, guys, on more pass-heavy downs, so his smaller stature and his lack of run blocking, I think, is workable here. And then Roman Wilson, kind of the smaller slot wide receiver. And then Jonnu Smith, I think, is going to be pretty much a quote-unquote big slot wide receiver in this Steelers offense. And I think the Steelers feel like this is something that they can work with heading into the NFL season. I think Calvin, Roman, and Jonnu are all very underrated weapons that the Steelers have in this group. And then the way that the tight end distribution is going to work out, and they will run a lot of 13 personnel this year, guys. Jonnu Smith's going to be that yak threat, that screen threat, underneath underneath, that type of stuff. You want to get him the ball in his hands in space, and then you want him to really do some great stuff after the catch with his athleticism. Pat Freiermuth is more of your possession type of receiving tight end, and then you got Darnell Washington as your true blocking tight end. So I really like how these guys complement each other with their skill sets, and I think you're going to see 2 and 3 tight end sets from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense more than any other unit in the National Football League this year. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers add another receiver before the season? If so, which one? I just don't think it's going to be Chase Claypool. This team shipped him out for a reason, and he hasn't been good since he left Pittsburgh. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section, and that will conclude today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Tomorrow, Coop and I are back live on Steelers Talk Live starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to click that subscribe button to help us beat the Ravens rundown on today's show. Thank you guys so much for stopping by today, and until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.